No problem.
Good afternoon, all of you. Yes, so yesterday we were discussing the aptitude and foundational values. Aptitude and foundational values of civil services. So we have discussed what is the aptitude, which is related with the capacity of an individual to perform something. So here aptitude for the bureaucrat is a capacity to perform his job. So naturally the capacity for the bureaucrat is about the knowledge. Okay, so he should possess the knowledge and to carry out his function. But then we have seen that only aptitude is not sufficient. Okay, that is aptitude is something related with the capacity. To be a very specific, we have seen that aptitude is some things which help him to develop the capacity. So ultimately, it's part of a capacity. So attitude is also required, and right attitude. Okay, that's an important one. Right attitude is required so that, in fact, the will to work in public spirit or in public interest. So right kind of attitude is required so that you can make the use of power or the authority for the sake of welfare or for the public interest. So we have seen that both aptitude is a knowledge part and this is a value based through the process of socialization and etc. Your attitude is shaped. So if you have a good values, in fact these values will shape the attitude. Apart from the socialization and those values, there are specific values also required. Specific values for the bureaucrat, and these specific values we have considered as a foundational values or the basic minimum values that would help the civil servant to perform his task. So what are those values? In fact, that has take us to the next topic, that is the foundational values of civil services. So these values are also called as code of no ethics. Values are code of ethics. Okay, generic values are code of ethics and specific rules are code of conduct. So these are the code of ethics. In code of ethics, we have taken the two lists. That is, one is the Nolan Committee. Okay, yes, ARC recommendations. ARC, that is Administrative Reform Committee second. So we have taken the list and we have also made an analysis broadly. That is what is the difference in between the Nolan Committee and the ARC and how ARC is more specifically applied in the context of Indian society. Okay, what has been the modification, why some more values are there in case of ARC. Then we have started the discussion on the basis of ARC recommendation. So we have done at least two values, that is honesty and integrity. Yes. How do you define the integrity? Yes, consistency in following the moral values in all the circumstances. Also, there has to be consistency between the thinking, speech, and action component. What do you think that should be expressed in your behavior? So that's about integrity. Integrity is an important value because it binds the civil servant with respect to rest of the values. So whatever the values that the civil servant should possess, these values should not be considered as a matter of convenience, but it should be upholded in a very high spirit in all the circumstances. So that's the integrity. On honey लिखा हुआ है यहाँ पे, honey नहीं है ये. I think there was a discussion amongst you. Okay, honesty. हाँ बराबर है. Yeah, honesty is a sweet thing and dishonesty is a bitter thing. That's what I can interpret now, politically correct thing. Okay, honesty and integrity. Then we have discussed the second value, impartiality. Impartiality, that is unbiasedness. Okay, so whenever the civil servant takes the decision, it should be impartial one. And what is an impartial decision? Decision based upon the merit or objective criteria. Objective criteria. So civil servant should always take the decision based upon merit and objective, and he should not take the decision based upon his parochial criteria, caste, religion, race, or any other personal bias, political bias also. Okay. In fact, we have used a specific term called political neutrality, that one should maintain the neutrality. Then we have discussed the transparency and the accountability. Transparency is about wherever you are taking the decision, you should be transparent. Okay. And what is the duty that is required? That you should keep the information in a public domain. You should not hide the information. In case of accountability, you are answerable. You should make yourself available for the scrutiny. Now, naturally, this answerability, one more thing that you should remember, although I have already said it, that transparency and accountability are the separate chapters. We have to discuss when we'll discuss the governance part in detail. But here, the answerability is not just about the question and answer and then leave it in the airs. It means that if the answer is not satisfactory, so there will be obviously a punishment. So it's not just for the sake of formally there is a question answer session going on. It only means that if there are lapses, if answer is satisfactory, then it's fine that you are doing a good job. But if it is not, so there will be an institutional mechanism to check what are the lapses, why there are lapses. You will be shown a show cause notice that if you have done something what you are not expected to do, why you have done such and such thing, or something what you are expected to do, why you have not done it. Like in definition we have mentioned the answerability for the omission and commission. So for everything, and if there are lapses, so corresponding to that there will be a punishment also. Think of, if there is no punishment, what is the value of accountability? There is no value. Okay, it's a mere piece of paper or mere words. And that is what happened in case of India. In case of India, there is no strong accountability, we say. What does it mean? It means that there is no punishment and therefore there is no deterrence. And since there is no deterrence, the prevalence of corruption is there. Okay, so strong accountability involves strong institutional mechanisms. And what is the strong institutional mechanism? Independent institutional mechanism. Most of the times these are the, again, in the hands of the governance. मतलब जो चोरी कर रहा है वही डिसाइड कर रहा है कि हम चोर है या नहीं है. Yes, to understand it simply, it means that because once the like say for example case is filed up in a CVC or Lokpal, ultimately case will go in the hands of CBI. CBI is governed by the government. So obviously a court will look into only the investigation, and the investigation going to be shouty because government is going to control that investigation. So there are lot many things when we say about the strong accountability. We'll discuss the part of governance. There we will discuss what is a strong accountability, etc. Here the point was from civil servants' point of view, you should be very open, flexible to put yourself available for the scrutiny. If somebody asks you the question, you are answerable. So that's about the accountability. Then next was, I think we have stopped there, right? So yes, now I think a dedication to public service is the next value. Next value is dedication to public service. So here the point is public service as a value. You can write public service as a value. Now first try and understand what does this means and what is the significance, why it should be a fundamental value. In fact, this is also a very core value which differentiate between the private sector or private organization and the public or government organization. Now, the core value of private sector or motive of private sector is profit. So, if you are working in MNC and etc., this will be the core component. But in case of a public and government, yes, service or the welfare or public service, this is the single most important difference between the two organizations. Now, there will be obviously a relative degree of different values. Even the public organization will also look for the profit. Like say, for example, ONGC, BSNL, every organization will also try to run on the basis of efficiency and effectivity, productivity. But still, welfare will be the most important consideration. Here also, you will see some public service such as CSR these days. What is CSR? Corporate social responsibility. Okay, so corporate also will work, but ultimately corporate has not been created for the sake of welfare of the public. It's primarily for the revenue generation. Now think of the employees working in different organization. So if you are being chosen in an MNC, what they are going to look into during the time of interview is whether you are a very important asset for the company, how soft skills you have, do you have managerial skills, branding, etc., etc. So the whole point of selection process is how he can be an important asset for the organization growth, for that company's growth. So therefore, the kind of the values that are required when you are selected for the private organization will be quite different, how competitive you are, etc., etc. In this case, how much you have an inclination for the public service, that is being looked into. Okay, apart from rest of the things, this is going to be an important. Now, one important point you understand here, the word dedication also has been added here. It has certain significance because if you see the rest of the values, transparency and accountability, we may write dedication to etc. But here, when we write the dedication, it has certain significance to a sense that uh, when you become an IS officer, IPS, or any, for that matter, any service you get through the UPSC, all 100% services are public oriented only. So you are going to perform your job in the interest of public only, because the very nature of job is public service. Any kind of a job that you are taking in through UPSC is a public oriented. So you are going to do only public service because that is what you are supposed to do. That is the job of you, for which you will be paid for it. Now, dedication to public service means that you should not do your job only because rules, regulations, organization, structure is there. It's because you should feel from inside that I should work in the public interest. That is what the dedication. Dedication is a personal commitment. There should be inner motivation from within so that you should work for the public service. Now, this is important because public service work in a very complex environment. It's not a very simple environment. Yesterday I have given you some of the example of discomfort of public service. There will be a political pressure, there will be a threat calls. Okay, so difficult situation. If you are working in Naxalite areas, northeast insurgencies, Kashmir, etc. So disturbed areas, it's become all the more difficult. So in all such areas, your salary and this thing is not going to get count because ultimately you are receiving 1/10 of what the private person is receiving. So if that will not be a bigger incentive for you. Think of you are working in Chhattisgarh, वहाँ पे लाइट ही नहीं है 16 घंटे 15 घंटे, व्हाट्सअप फेसबुक वर्क नहीं कर रहा है, नोटिफिकेशन नहीं आ रहे, पॉपअप नहीं हो रहा है कुछ. ओके, यू आर थिंकिंग दैट अरे वो वीकेंड वाला ही सैटरडे संडे ही ठीक था हमारा, चंडीगढ़ वाला, छत्तीसगढ़ में आके वो हुआ है. देन इफ यू आर गोइंग इन एंड फॉर विजिटिंग अ प्लेस, यू हैव अ फियर ऑफ लैंड माइन. ओके, तो आपको जो रेड बेकन कार दिख रही है वो रेड बेकन नहीं दिखेगा, नीचे आपको लगेगा कि वो IED ब्लास्ट हो सकता है किसी भी टाइम में. इनफैक्ट इफ यू गो इन टू द छत्तीसगढ़ एरियाज, यू विल मीट पीपल, दे डू नॉट यूज द एम्बेसडर. Okay, they use the civilian vehicle because civilian vehicle is not targeted. The moment you see the white ambassador blown off, तो आपको red bacon वगैरह नहीं आएगा वो, ठीक है. So the whole point is, even in that situation, there should be a dedication. Now, at that point of time, if you have this particular value, in spite of these difficult times, I want to work in the interest of public, then certainly you will be a sort of efficient, functioning civil servant. Okay, in that regard. So, understanding that first, right, the public service is a value. This calls for working in the interest of, this calls for, or this involves this involves civil servant should work in the interest of civil servant should work in the interest of public. He should able to keep aside he should able to keep aside his personal interest. He should able to keep aside his personal interest in all situations. In all situations. Okay. Public service or public interest, public service or public interest should be the sole motive, should be the sole motive of a civil servant, of a civil servant. Okay. Now, what are the different things? Different things are, say, for example, any kind of a decision you are taking. Here, as I have said, that this is again a very broader value. This includes rest of the values also, because impartiality will also come when we say about the public service. It means that you should be able to keep aside your self-interest, and the self-interest is again favoritism, parochialism, caste, creed, etc. So in all the situations, the public interest should be the only motive for you, and it should never be an personal interest in that regard. Okay. Now, right next paragraph, dedication to public service. Dedication to public service. Dedication to public service involves the inner motivation, or in bracket passion likho, inner motivation or the passion to work in the interest of public. There should be inner motivation to work in the interest of public. This inner motivation will guide the civil servant, to work in larger public interests, specifically during the time of exigencies or crisis. Help to work in the public interest, especially during the time of crisis or exigencies. Exigencies means crisis. Exigencies. Okay, crisis-like situation, difficult situation. Now, difficult situation, you can say that, just bracket में लिख लो या note करके लिख लो, political pressure, working in difficult areas, political pressure, working in difficult areas. Then whistleblower or whistleblowing. Whistleblowing is a part of the issue, and whistleblower is the one who blows the whistle. So these are the difficult times where if there is inner motivation, so obviously you will work in the larger public interest. So keep those political exigencies, different exigencies in bracket. Even in the normal times also, obviously public service is going to be helpful, but particularly this thing we focus upon the dedication. Now, write the next one. That is, in fact, we are going to do some of the values together. Empathy, compassion लिखा है. क्या है next value? Yes. So just make this way that we're going to discuss. Pity, sympathy, empathy, and compassion. Apathy, sympathy, empathy, and compassion. So, what is an apathy? Yes. So, obviously, these three are different. This is different. I hope against this we have to understand. Apathy is indifference, attitude of indifference, likho, particularly. Attitude of indifference or insensitivity. It's generally recognized as a callous attitude. You must have heard. Callous attitude is apathetic attitude, apathy, attitude of indifference or insensitivity. Insensitivity. That's why the bureaucracy is termed as status quoist. Okay, because of its attitude, it is being termed as status quoist. It is termed as elitist. Elitist is working in the upper class interest. Okay, status quoist, elitist, rules oriented. That is a typical bureaucratic attitude जिसको बोला जाता है. Okay, bureaucratic attitude. We'll discuss in the end of the class as I mentioned. What happened? Huh? Like a kindergarten students, you are like, what is happening there? झगड़े कर रहे हो आप? मॉनिटर नहीं है क्या क्लास में कोई? चुप कर रहे. नहीं, certainly he said sir because the other guy was disturbing और पता नहीं क्या चल रहा है उनका. Elitist. Yes, so have you understood this? This is a typical bureaucratic attitude, status quo is rule-based, not giving an importance. Now, against this context, we have to change and we have to bring these components to an bureaucracy. So, sympathy, empathy, and compassion. So, what's the difference? See, one thing, one thread common to all. Okay, the thread which is common to all is sensitivity towards the others. Sensitivity for others or being sensitive with respect to others' situation. Okay. So what's the difference? What do you understand? Huh? Yes. Hmm. You cannot show sympathy to beggar, slavery. Huh? Really? Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Huh. Or is it the other way around? No. Uh-huh. Yes. Slightly. Yes. Yes. See, she has said pity. Okay. To feel pity for someone is what taras khana kisi ke upar. Okay. Generally, we say that I feel pity for you. God bless you. The situation will go by. It's just a matter of time. That's from a distance you are making that I feel sorry for you. Okay, this is sorry for you. God bless you. Situation will go by. Thank you. Good night. Take care. Vagera. Okay, so that's about the sympathy. We are going to see that there is a sense of pittiness, there is a sense of superiority and inferiority, there is a sense of strong and weak in sympathy. Okay, so do not write that because the point is we do not want to make it sound like sympathy is not a virtue. Okay, sympathy is a virtue, and just because we want to compare with the empathy and compassion, we have to describe in different words. First, let's understand, then I'll make you write. Empathy is putting yourselves into the shoes of others and trying to understand what the other person is exactly going through. Okay, what she has said about this slavery, or for that matter, people living in a slum. So you should go and feel that what it is like to being a part of an slum. Okay, sitting in an air-conditioned hall, you cannot really think about what it must be in case of a slum. So that's not empathizing then, that is sympathizing. AC में बैठ के ट्विटर पे वो कर दोगे तो वो दैट इज अ सिंपैथी. ओके, ओ माय गॉड व्हाट हैज हैपेंड, दैट्स रॉन्ग, एंड थोड़ा सा वो रोते हुए कुछ ऐसे इमोजीज वगैरह डाल दोगे तो दैट्स द थिंग. Empathy is understanding from their perspective. What is the compassion then? What's the compassion? What's the compassion involves? Yes, action. See, once you develop an empathy, that is putting yourself into the other's position and understand what the other person is going through, once you understand, you feel so restless that you want to do something so as to take that person away from that plight or the difficult situation. So it essentially involves the action component also. So first, right, sympathy. This is only right. Being sensitive towards the others. That is a common point. Being sensitive. यहीं पे लिख लो sympathy में. Being sensitive towards the other's situation. Being sensitive towards the other's situation. Toward the other's situation. Okay, but in bracket for remembering, just write that there is a sense of pittiness. Okay, there is a sense of pittiness in it. To feel pity for someone, P-I-T-Y. To feel pity for someone is sympathizing someone. Empathy, you can write. Empathy, this involves putting oneself into the other's shoes. मत लिखो shoes, sandals, ये बहुत urban words है. Putting oneself into the other's position or situation, and understanding what the other person is exactly going through. And understanding what the other person is exactly going through. So that's empathy. And compassion, you can write. Now in compassion, first empathy is already there. There is a sense when we say about compassion, okay, empathy plus there is an action component. Okay, so right, in compassion, in fact, first for understanding, you can write empathy plus action. Empathy plus action. Empathy plus action. So action orientation. Now, what I'm trying to say is you should not use the word sympathy. Okay, we haven't given in the list ARCs. Because in sympathy, there is a sense of strong and weak. Okay, because you are strong, therefore you should show. That's not the thing. In fact, the saying also goes, do not sympathize, but empathize. Okay, sympathize is something where there is an inherent component of superiority and supremacy. So therefore, try and avoid this word, because bureaucrats should not show sympathy. They should be empathizing with the others. So you can use the word empathy and compassion. While writing any of the definition, empathy, you can use this word, because being considerate and sensitive about the others is common for all. Plus, you should add in empathy that one should understand by putting oneself into the other's shoes. If compassion you have to write three things. Okay, being considerate for the others, putting oneself into the shoes of others, and then taking certain action so that a person can be uplifted, okay, from the situation. You can use, in fact, the word empathy and compassion interchangeably. There is no, like when you are writing the answers. But when the specific question is asked, what do you understand by the term empathy and compassion, then you should be very specific in writing. So empathy, compassion can be interchangeably used, not an sympathy wala. Okay, so sympathy you in fact drop. Now the whole point is, like if you bring this empathy and compassion, so from elitist it becomes a public orientation. Okay, so we want to bring a public orientation, and therefore we want, it should not be just a elitist service, or it should be change oriented. It should not be status quoist, but the change oriented service. And this value is particularly required to be shown towards the weaker section of the society. Okay, to understand the weaker section. Public orientation, from elitist orientation to the public service orientation. That's the point. Or from status quoism to the change orientation or the agent of change. So these are the different values. Now write the next particular thing about tolerance. Yes, tolerance you can write. Tolerance, in fact, we have defined already. कहाँ पे किया था हमने या नहीं? Where? Huh? No, we haven't defined. क्या है definition? बिना देख के बताओ कोई. Yes, different opinions. तो कौन से chapter में किया था? कुछ याद नहीं आ रहा है. Yes, value conflict. Okay, we have discussed the value conflict. And in value conflict, I have mentioned the problem is not about different values, but the problem is being fundamentalist with respect to one value. When you become a fundamentalist, you are intolerant with respect to others' value. And intolerance give rise to value conflict give rise to intolerance, intolerance give rise to violence. So the solution is not about like homogenization, though it is a multicultural, it is a plural value, it is a pluralism, but the value of tolerance has to be there, that one should have a respect. So write once again tolerance. Tolerance is attitude of fairness. Tolerance is an attitude of fairness towards someone whose viewpoints, culture, religion, caste, gender, race, whose culture, religion, caste, gender, race, in fact these days sexual orientation also, is different than that of yours. Is different than that of yours. So being fairer, LGBT, इसलिए बता रहा था, okay, LGBT, you should be tolerant to that extent when there is a difference. So attitude of fairness towards someone whose viewpoints, culture, religion, caste, gender, race, viewpoints, political differences are different than that of yours. Right in a continuation of the next line, that tolerance is about the acknowledging the differences, and the diversities that exist in society. Is about acknowledging the differences and the diversities that exist in society. The lack of tolerance gives rise to intolerant behavior which threatens freedom of speech and expression, freedom of speech and expression along with the larger peace and harmony of society, peace and harmony of the society. Okay, so this is a value of tolerance. Particularly this is important for the bureaucrat, because again, because of socialization he must be carrying certain opinion. So the moment he become a bureaucrat, he is not supposed to bring those sort of parochial attitude and become intolerant with respect to the other's value. Otherwise, again, it is very difficult for him to maintain the objectivity in decision making. Otherwise, क्या होगा जगह? He will bring the subjectivity. Say, for example, yes, if there is a beef ban is there, what the government has taken the decision he is supposed to implement, okay? Or something which he think is culturally not approved, based upon his, like say for example, honor killing, and he is also one of the person who thinks that marrying in the same gotra is a wrong thing to do. He also has a patriarchal mindset, but then he becomes a bureaucrat, then it's illegal, that is honor killing, etc., etc. But then if he is not able to do it and he becomes remain an intolerant, therefore he will not able to implement the constitutional and the legal values. Okay? Same in case of communal violence, if it happens, any kind of, not even the communal violence, but communal conflict also, he is supposed to take a decision impartially. Okay, so if he is carrying these values, so obviously the problems will happen. So that's about the tolerance. In fact, what is important, there are different adjectives: cultural tolerance, religious tolerance, tolerance towards other contradictory viewpoints. Okay, write one important quote. Okay, that will be an important one. Hmm? Yes, write a quote there for the tolerance so that you can use this also. Right, quote unquote. I may not agree with. I have told. Okay, okay, Voltaire. Huh. Okay, so that's the thing you should always like quote whenever there is a question of tolerance. Religious tolerance, cultural tolerance. Okay. That is, I may not agree with what you say, but I will defend to my death your right to say so. So the principle is, even if you are in disagreement, still you should not curb the freedom of speech and expression of other, and you should be tolerant towards other values. Have you written something on the this moral policing? I gave you the assignment. हाँ? लिखा था कुछ moral policing के ऊपर. In fact, moral policing is one manifestation of lack of tolerance. Okay, this is one example. Communal violence and communal conflict is another example. Moral policing, there is nothing like moral in moral policing. I explained. Okay, Valentine's Day. So that's intolerant. Fawad Khan should go. That's sort of a thing. Okay, so अब आए दिल है मुश्किल देख के तो लग रहा होगा कि नहीं, फवाद खान को रोकना ही चाहिए था. लुकिंग वेरी हैंडसम एंड बेकार में शिवसेना कहाँ से आ गई है, ये भेज दिया. Anyway, so that's what is the next value? What's the next value? Courage. Okay, right? Courage. Courage, or in bracket you can write the fortitude. Courage, or it is also sometimes known as fortitude. In fact, this question was asked, I think in 2015 only. Okay, what do you understand by the fortitude? Many people don't know fortitude. ये क्या पूछ लिया? Okay, fortitude is the courage. किसी ने बहुत मतलब होशियार थे, हिंदी ट्रांसलेशन देख लिया था, तो that has came handy. Okay, so sometimes it helps. Fortitude, yes. Now here we are not talking about obviously 56-inch courage and those aspects. Okay, here basically see, the thing is there are two aspects. Military sort of things, you go on LOC, crossfire, and etc. etc. So here we are talking about civil servants' point of view. So when you are writing the things, you should be very specific with respect to civil servants' point of view, because each and every word that we have discussed in the class, which has a different connotations also, you have to reduce all the different terms and vagueness into the civil servants' point of view. So from the civil servant's point of view, this courage, where all it is required and what is the utility of the courage. So right from withstanding the adversities, that is a political pressure, you need a courage. For the whistleblowing, you need a courage. For uncomfortable decisions, say for example, you are working in a district and then uh, you have seen that there is a one particular road of a district, which is a very important road, and there is a lot of crowding and traffic jam and etc. happening. Recently, pollution has happened and the accident has happened, so on and so forth. So you have observed that on the both the side of the road there has been illegal construction. Okay, and so therefore you have put a notice that you are going for the that is yes taking out this demolition drive against this illegal construction. Now 15 days time you have given and then you wanted to go ahead with that. On a very next day you get a call from the member of parliament of your district and he says that 70% of the constructions belong to him or his near and dear ones. So you dare not go ahead with the demolition drive. Now this is the situation where the rules and regulations says that they are illegal construction and you can go ahead with it, but what is required is a courage. So this is about the political pressure and how you should go ahead with that. Many times it happens that some decisions which are uncomfortable for the political dispensation of the day, that's also where we require to show the courage. Whistleblowing, as I have mentioned, like we have the cases of Ashok Khemga, Sanjay Chaturvedi, etc. So the commitment with respect to the rest of the values will also require courage. So in that respect, you should understand the courage. So right courage. Uh, civil servant is required. Civil servant is required to carry out his function, to carry out his function and the task without any fear, without any fear. Courage or fortitude helps the civil servant. Courage or fortitude helps the civil servant to remain committed, to remain committed with respect to civil service values, to remain committed with respect to civil service values. Courage is all the more important. Courage is all the more important in the time of adversities. Courage is all the more important in the time of adversities, such as withstanding the political pressure, such as withstanding the political pressure, comma, raising the voice against the wrongdoing, raising the voice against the wrongdoing. In bracket, you can write whistleblowing, raising the voice against wrongdoing, in bracket, whistleblowing, etc. Okay. And in fact, some of the, as I have mentioned already, that the decisions which are uncomfortable for the political dispensation, such as this sort of drives and any kind of thing where there is a personal interest or the political interest is involved, you will be called and said, do not go ahead with a particular thing. Like there was a case of this sand mafia in Uttar Pradesh, and there is a lady, kya naam hai unka? Durga Shakti Nagpal, okay? So she has been harassed quite a number of times when she was taking an action against the sand mafia. And there are different types of mafia. All kinds of mafia of the world exist in Uttar Pradesh, okay? So certainly, so it requires a lot of courage. और एक है कोई ठाकुर, कौन से ठाकुर नाम है उनका? Amitabh Thakur. Okay, so certainly the courage and fortitude comes handy because unless and until you have a guts, you cannot think of making an Yadav's conversation making public. Okay, that takes a lot of guts. So this is an important value in that regard. We'll discuss all these values again. ये चलता रहेगा क्योंकि case studies when we will learn because then you will understand that how this is an interplay of different values are there. Yes, now next value. क्या लिखा है? Okay, leadership. Yes, right. The leadership. Leadership. Yes, tell me some of the attributes of different. यहाँ पे कोई definition नहीं है. Just like different attributes of leader. Okay, what are the different attributes or different characters of the leaders that one should possess? That's what we are discussing. Decision making. एक एक बताओ. पहले मत लिखो पे लिख देता हूँ पहले यहाँ पे. हाँ, decision making. Initiator. हाँ? Good listener. Okay. Adaptive, flexible. Okay. Motivator. इंडिया में रैशनैलिटी की बात मत किया करो. Rationality. Okay. I'll discuss here. There are three things of leadership. What is rational? Whether rationality should be the part or not part. What are the consideration of leadership? Huh? Or autocratic. Leader should be autocratic. Huh? Should not be one. Okay. Then what he should be? Yes. In fact, that is very important point for discussion because see, in case of 20th century's definition of leader and 21st, there is a strikingly difference. Okay. In case of 20th century, the leader is defined on the basis of command and obedience. Okay. But now it's no more a very good sign of a leader. You understand command and obedience? So whatever the leader would say, it's a command. It's an unquestionable thing. You cannot question what has been said by the leader, and you have to blindly obey. This was the thing of past. Today we talk about the consensus. He should be a consensus builder. Today's leadership is not about this. It is about more consensus building and democratic decision making. और बताओ? Patience. Okay. Patience. और? Honest. अरे हाँ, बाकी जो जितनी values हमने पढ़ाई है वो तो है ही है. Honest, courageous, dedication, etc. Gift of? ओके अरे इतने अर्बन यूज नहीं करेंगे और थोड़ा सा रिफाइंड वर्ड बताओ उसके लिए क्या बता सकते हो उसको डेफ्ट इनबॉर्न द लीडर्स यस यस सी द थिंग इज यहाँ पे किसने बोला है गुड लिसनिंग में हम वो करेंगे कि कम्युनिकेटर गुड कम्युनिकेटर ओके गुड कम्युनिकेशन ऑब्वियसली ओरेटर वगैरह हाँ वो याद आ रहा होगा हाँ यस ये मैं सोच रहा था कोई बोलेगा charismatic. Okay, we have to discuss some issues there. What do you understand by charismatic leader? क्या करिश्मा दिखाएगा? करिश्मा करीना याद आ रहा है चल रहा है उधर बैकग्राउंड में हाँ यस That's it. Team player, yes. So there has to be a more focus on this. It's a consensus building team player. Okay, now you can write some of the things. See, first is he should be visionary. In fact, that is one important thing which differentiates him from the masses. Okay, masses, they do not have the vision. He has a long-term vision, short-term vision. He knows. Like, in fact, they say that politician and statesman, there is a difference. Politician look for the next election, statesmen look for the next generation. Okay, he don't think of this political calculation for the election. A statesmanship, this is a very big word. He has a visionary leader, जिसको बोला जाता है. Okay, so that's a visionary, having a long-term vision for the whatever the thing is initiating. Now, this is easy to remember. I'll make you understand that once what is the vision, he should be able to convey that vision to his masses and the public. So what is required is communication. Okay, he should be a good communicator, that he should able to put his vision into the publics. Now he should not only communicate, but he should motivate them. So he should be a good motivator. Vision should communicate it. He should motivate them. He should not motivate. He himself should do something. He should be the initiator. Okay, or what we call lead by examples. Leader should lead by examples. Or he should be the initiator. He should be the team player. Or in fact, this is the point. Whenever he is making the decision, it should not be this command and obedience. It should be consensus based. So in decision making, okay, he should focus on the consensus building. Consensus building. Now, here there is a point, somebody has talked about adaptable and flexible. So this is, in command and obedience, there is no flexibility. It is completely a sort of dictatorship or authoritarianism. But if you are a consensus builder, so obviously there will be a lot of flexibility and adaptability. It's a sign of a democratic leader, okay? A sign of a democratic leader versus a dictator. His focus is consensus building, listening to others' viewpoints, adapting and showing and flexibility. Yes, somebody has mentioned about the patience. It's a larger part of emotional intelligence. So we haven't done that chapter yet. Just right, he should be emotionally intelligent. Emotional intelligence. There is a separate chapter, emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence or emotionally intelligent. He should be emotional. EI or EQ should be very high, not just about the IQ. Okay. So patience is an important virtue. What it involves when we say about emotionally intelligent? What does it mean? Situation in a terms of panic, uncertainty, failure. Okay, whenever the things are not turning in your favor, you may lose your temperament. Okay, and once you have lost your temperament or you failed, that you got defeated, then obviously the people in the team and the rest of the people will also feel the same. So that's the emotionally intelligent person will manage the emotional upheaval. Okay, particularly during the time of crisis, it is very important. He motivates the others. Okay, even in the times of failure, etc. So let's again see some of the things. Motivator, ho gaya, decision making, initiator, good listener and communicator. This patience, team player. Command and obedience should not be the thing, although it's still there in case of military. You cannot, like in military leaders, you cannot challenge. Like the soldier will not challenge the brigadier. Okay, but then in case of a civilian leadership, the focus should be on the consensus and the trust building. Then yes, now come to this aspect. One more, he should be responsible. Responsible in a sense that Uh, in fact, that's a part of a team leader. When there is a failure, he should take the responsibility. During the time of failure, he should take the responsibility. And when there is a success, he also should take the responsibility. He should distribute, okay, he should give the due credit to the team players. Okay. हाँ मोदी कोई और हाँ धोनी ओके धोनी राहुल गांधी हाँ ठीक है सौरव गांगुली नहीं of course he was the one who has brought the leadership spirit into the team जो team है okay the team spirit has been brought obviously the सौरव गांगुली okay personal favorite था इसलिए बता दिया था तो लेकिन फिर भी that's the truth okay it's a irrefutable fact anyways see, the thing is how you should write sometimes such questions and such aspects are asked. Like, say, for example, if there is a ISRO rocket launch is there, okay? Obviously, rocket is GSLV, PSLV we are talking about. So, if there is a failure of the launch, you see that the chairman of the ISRO will come forward and take the whole responsibility. That being a chairman of ISRO, I take a whole responsibility for the failure and then he gives some motivating words that this is not the end, we will come back again. So this is a sort of a responsibility is taken by the leaders, and when the GSLV, PSLV gets success, you see that the whole credit of the ISRO, and he never forgets to mention the rest of the people and all the people who have some other way, directly or indirectly, helped in the process of success. So that's a quality of leader. Leader who takes the masses along with him. So that's the leader these days. The leader who inspires the masses, inspires the audience. Now let's come to this three parts separately. So responsible, and I think you have written courage separately. Although we have taken, just write the courage also in the leadership. Courageous. Now, some of the things I'm mentioning here, although this theory was given by the Weber, okay, about the authority of leader. So the three types of leadership emerge. Why we go for the leadership is because of three different things. First is what he called as the traditional basis. And second, he calls as a charismatic basis. And third is legal rational. Legal rational basis. Traditional basis, charismatic basis, and the legal rational basis. Max Weber karke. So he was talking about authority, different types of authorities or the leaders. Now, what is a traditional authority? This is something traditionally it's been continued. That's why they are leaders. Okay, they are the son and daughters of so on and so forth. So therefore, there is a leadership that is called as a traditional leadership. During the time of earlier times when monarchy, okay, hereditary monarchy. So the hereditary monarchy is a traditional leadership, or for that matter, in a community, some group of people will be considered as leaders. Say, for example, during the, pardon? Tandas, obviously. So that's the point. So tandas or various groups, tribal में जो leadership रहती है. There's a feudal mindset. Feudal mindset, you understand? There is already a society में some people are supposed to be born to be leaders only. Yes, Kshatriya जैसे हैं, ठीक है? So the part of division here is the tradition continued. That's a part of the monarchy and etc. Examples. So historic reason has been there, traditional reason has been there, therefore we consider them as leaders. In each state, a different dominant section of the society is there, different sections in different societies. So these leaders will be considered as traditional leaders. Now, irrespective of their merit and these things, they enjoy the power of leader. Second thing is charismatic. Charismatic is about the personality cult. Okay. Personality cult. Now, personality cult is not rational. It can be anything. Okay, it can be anything which attracts the masses. Okay, cult can be based upon anything that attracts the masses. Now, anything can be MSG also is a charismatic person. MSG, क्या नाम है उनका? Messenger of God, Ram Rahim Malik, पता नहीं क्या क्या नाम. हाँ, गुरमीत राम रहीम सिंह जो भी है. So that's also a cult. Baba is also cult. Ramdev Baba is also a cult. Very different. हाँ, निर्मल बाबा, गॉड ऑफ ऑल बाबाज. अगर कभी नहीं, आसाराम भी है लेकिन निर्मल के आगे कोई नहीं है. निर्मल इज, आज आपने ऑरेंज कलर का लड्डू खाया है तो आप अब सफेद कलर का लड्डू खा के आ जाओ तो आपका यूपीएससी क्लियर हो जाएगा. अगर आपने सफेद खाया है तो लाल खाओ. हाँ, तो ऐसा है. अगर कहीं बहुत बोर हो रहा है किसी दिन तो यूट्यूब में निर्मल बाबा डालो, आपको पहचान हो जाएगी बाबा की. मतलब दिस पीपल एग्जिस्ट इन द सोसाइटी. इट्स रियली, मतलब यू विल गो मैड, यू विल लाफ ऑल्सो, बट it's horrible how these people exist, and there's a lot of donation without hurting anybody's sentiment. I hope not somebody is a preacher of Nirmal, so excuse me for that. Anyway, so that's a personality cult. So this is one part of Baba culture, is just one. These are called as self-proclaimed God, okay, God-mans. But then it can be a normal civilian person also who wage on the basis of his personality factor. There's more important here is personality. That's the thing. Now, legal rational basis is out of his office and chair. Constitution is saying he is a prime minister. Forget about he as a person. It's a prime minister. It's a legally and rationally defined chair or the office. President. When we say the president, it's a legal chair. US president, it's a chair. So legal rational basis is coming out of his official position. Official position. Official position. Now, the Max Weber says, as the society becomes modern, there is a trend towards going towards the legal rational personality. Okay, so when we say about the modernity, modern leader, we generally look for the official position of him. That is basically when legal and rational basis is defining it, it is obviously based upon his merit criteria. But again, you cannot completely negate simultaneous factors also. Think of Mrs. Indira Gandhi. Okay, now you will see that's a one best example where you can see the a strong leader having all the three elements into a one person. Traditional Nehru Gandhi family. So she was the daughter of a Pandit Nehru and from the tradition. So there is a tradition which was continuing Nehru Gandhi family, and therefore she was had this charismatic. She herself has a sort of a aura. Okay, that was her personality component, and a prime minister of a country. So where you can see the all the three things. Narendra Modi, you can say this and this tradition is not there. Okay, charisma plus legal rational, we can say. So depending upon, so whatever the thing is, you can like think of there are different possibilities, but ultimately in a democracy and the modern leader, the judgment should not be based upon the charisma and tradition. It should be based upon whether his official position and he is able to deliver what has been the constitutional and legal obligation on him. So judgment criteria cannot be this. So Max Weber says, as the society will become more and more modern, like in case of Western societies, generally he will be judged on the basis of his performance, legal, rational, constitutional obligation that is bestowed upon him, whether he is able to deliver on that. That becomes a criteria for the personality. Have you understood? So that's the thing. In fact, if you see the Hitler, it was a charismatic leader, as we say. It's 100% a personality cult. Okay, where he is larger than the life figure sort of thing. Okay, although it was through the intimidation also, but whatever the thing is, that sort of different means can be applied. That's why I said that I haven't spoken about it has to be only good means. It can be any means which finally sort of based upon the intuition, based upon this, you try and attract the person, people at large. So have you understood this legal rational? Just keep in mind, otherwise, so this list cannot be sort of an exhaustive list, okay? It's just a general, some of the points which you should remember, like these are the points of the leaders. Now, so this is the end of our this ARC list. Now we will take the definition of Nolan community. Whatever has been discussed so far, just flip through the pages, see, have you understood? If you haven't understood any point, then please let me know about it. Yes, right now the Nolan committee's definition, as I have said, that I'll be giving you definitions, which are very restrictive, but still you should know something about it. So, right, Nolan's committee and the definition of Nolan's committee. 7 tools of Nolan's committee. So, first, right, the first one is selflessness. Selflessness. So, right, holder of the public office, holder of the public office should act in public interest, should act in a public interest, and he should not do so, in order to gain financial, or other benefits, for himself, comma, his friends, and पहले लिखना था his family or his friend. For himself, his family, and his friend. Okay. So this is straightforward what we have discussed in dedication to public service. So dedication to public service we have defined the same way, that one should work in the interest of public service and self should not be the criteria, and self-interest should be keep aside. So here they are defining it should be public interest and the self, and self means you, your friends, and your near and dear ones, and there should not be any financial goal. Right, the next one, so that's the definition. Second is integrity. Okay. In fact, first let me explain because it is too complicated definition. But you can understand this if you have understood the integrity. So integrity, what we have defined is following the values consistently in all the circumstances. Or there has to be a coherence between what you think, what you speak, and what you do. Now, how the integrity is defined from the Nolan committee, that holder of the public office should not put himself into the obligation of others, okay, which influence him in performance of his duties. Now, try and understand that if you are under the obligation, financial obligation or any other obligation to the external authority, obligation means, say for example, you have taken a loan, a gift, or any sort of a thing. So naturally क्या हो जाएगा? There is a chance that the other person will influence your decision making. And if that will influence, so where is the integrity remaining? Because you are getting influenced by the others. So while defining, they have defined this way, that the holder of the public office should not put himself under the obligation of external authority which seeks to influence their decision making. Okay, so right, that the holder of the public office should not put himself under any financial or other obligation, financial or any other obligation, to the outside individual or organization, to the outside individual or organization that might seek to influence, that might seek to influence outside individual or organization, outside individual or organization that seeks to influence the individual in performance of his duties. इंडिविजुअल की जगह हिम लिखो अगर नहीं समझ में आ रहा है, वो दूसरा इंडिविजुअल है, ये दूसरा इंडिविजुअल है. हाँ, that mics to six. Let me repeat it. Holder of the public office should not put himself into the other's obligation, individual or organization which is external to him, which seeks to influence in performance of his duties. Okay, so that's the integrity. Now, right, the next is the objectivity. Objectivity. Okay, right, there is no change in definition, that is same. Holder of the public office, holder of the public office, while making public appointments, comma, awarding contracts, making appointments, awarding contracts, or making recommendations, should take the decision, making recommendations, comma, should take the decision on the basis of merit. In fact, this objectivity is also impartiality. Okay, so that's a part of impartiality, objectivity, etc. Okay, next, right, openness. Openness is transparency. Okay, openness. Holder of the public office, holder of the public office should act in an open manner, while taking decisions and performing actions. Should act in an open manner while taking decisions or performing actions. He should give reasons for his decisions. He should give reasons for his decisions and should not restrict any information. He should give reasons for his decision and should not restrict any information unless required. What is this unless required? There are certain sensitive information. Okay, everything cannot be make it public. So even in the RTI also there are certain exceptions. Okay. Defense related. Tomorrow you cannot go how many nuclear weapon India is having. I'm really worried whether we are really prepared against the Pakistan or not. I got the news that we have some less weaponry. Please, through the RTI, let me know whether I am secure or not. You will not. And then you fight this, is this a democracy and I live in a dictatorial country. So that's not happened. Okay, so that's it. The section 8 is there. But in India, under the name of national security, the exceptions becomes the rule in India. If you see the section 8, when we'll discuss the RTI, we will see that it's a jumbo bag. Okay, everything and anything, whatever government feels that should not be in public domain, put it in section 8. You must have studied in polity class. There is a schedule. Which schedule is there? Schedule 9 is there. So judicial review को avoid करने के लिए simply put it into the Schedule 9. So defeating the whole purpose. So the exception becomes the rule, and you are putting this sort of in terms with a malified intention. Okay. In fact, the political parties are also in the exception because it threatens the national security of the country. So under the RTI, the information of the political party is not available. The funding of political parties, in fact, that's a very important debates in the contemporary times. In fact, Supreme Court and the Election Commission of India has said that there are lot many issues with regard to funding of political parties. And these fundings are in fact the black funding and criminal aspects are increasing in the election because the funding is not transparent. But however, the political parties has not budged to the Supreme Court's decision, and still we didn't see that the political parties and RTI is applied to them. Okay, that's a part of electoral reform. It's a very big topic, electoral reform, because mostly the political funding comes from the corporate class. Now think of when the corporate class is funding, so they will also ensure when the government will come to the power, they will also want some returns, concessions. So the whole governance is getting affected. So it's not per se the problem of transparency of political parties, but of a governance. Many a time this Bahubali elements of the society also fund the government, and they ensure, because there is a criteria of winnability. So political parties, what they do, they apply this winnability criteria, and therefore they distribute these aspects of yes, tickets. So that's again the criminal element, that is criminalization of politics that we see, is because the political parties give them the tickets and therefore it happens. So the whole process of distribution of tickets, political party funding, political party democracy, nothing is under the scanner of RTI, although Supreme Court has said, but that was the one of the unique time where the Congress and the BJP, which was the principal national party, joined the hands together, in order to defeat the particular act. It's happened very rarely. It happens when Lokpal bill was there in the parliament, so BJP and this thing, मतलब हाँ मिल जाते हैं कभी कभी, once in a while. हाँ और कोई एक्ट है क्या? हाँ GST में भी था. Yes, certainly GST was also there, but these are very obvious reasons. Anything against the corruption, जैसे police reform, electoral reform, judicial reform, these are not very comfortable things for the political dispensation of any sort. Like making a CBI independent, no government will want it, because there is a change in the guards and the hands after each 5 years. So every government will want that police system, CBI, different independent agencies should be a sort of a tool in their hands to further their political ends. So these are very difficult things of democracy, but still we have to live with it. That's the thing. Now let's move forward. ये क्या लिखा था आपने? Yes, openness. So in that regard, next is accountability. Accountability. You can write the holder of the public office. Holder of the public office. Holder of the public office should be answerable. Should be answerable for his act of omission and commission. For his act of omission and commission. It's the same definition. He should make himself available. He should make himself available for the scrutiny, for any kind of scrutiny. Any kind of scrutiny. Now write the next, honesty. Honesty. Now, their honesty we have simply taken as a truthfulness. Here, a specific component has been taken into account. So write holder of the public office. holder of the public office, holder of the public should declare any private interest, any private interest relating to his public duty, should declare, holder of the public office should declare the private interest relating to his public duty, and he should take the steps, to resolve conflicts, conflicts arising in a way of protecting public interest, arising in a way of protecting public interest. Now, try and understand what is this honesty. So that's why I said that things are very restrictive definition. When we speak of honesty from the Nolan's committee point of view, they have restricted to declaration of conflict of interest. I have already mentioned what is conflict of interest. कहाँ पे mention किया था? Conflict of interest, do you remember? Yes. So yesterday when we were discussing about political neutrality, okay. So in that I have mentioned, see first try and understand what is this conflict of interest. In fact, this was also a question in 2015 separately. What do you understand by conflict of interest? Note करके लिख लो कहीं पे, this conflict of interest क्या है? First understand and then you can just write it down. See, whenever the civil servant is performing the task, there are two types of interest. One is the public interest. Not always, there are certain situations I'll explain, which is we generally called a primary interest. Public interest, that is a primary interest, and there is a chance that he may use the power or authority, okay, for his personal interest or the private interest. Personal interest. Obviously, this is a secondary interest. And in fact, we have seen one of the value that dedication to public service. What does it call for? That he should act in a selfless manner and he should never bring the personal interest and the private interest. Now think of, in all the situation this is possible, but there are certain obvious situation and the circumstances where it becomes obvious in for the public that there is a situation or the circumstances where he may use, where the situation of conflict of interest has arisen. Now, first let me give this obvious example in corporate, and then I can explain this at a government level because it's more term used in case of corporate practice. Say, for example, you are a board of director in a company A, okay? One company is there, you are a board of director. Now, board of director are the one who takes the decision for the company, all the strategic decision for the company. Now, there are different companies you outsource, there are different functions like say B, C, D, E, F to deal with companies, forward, backward linkages, raw material, marketing, production, etc. So you have a linkage with this. Now, say for example, there is a D company, and in the D company, your stakes are there. You have, your shares are in D company. Now think of one particular decision, okay, where you have asked for the tender or outsource, and this company have applied for the tender or for the contract with respect to you. Now this is a situation called as conflict of interest situation. Herein, there is a one person who cannot take objective or neutral decision because there is always a tendency that he may favor the D. Okay, so this is a situation of conflict of interest wherein it's obvious that you have to work in the interest of organization also, that is your primary interest, but then there is your private interest also. You may favor D because your state shares are also involved. Now, it's quite possible that a person of company A is a very honest and a man of integrity. Even if A, B, C, D are there, he is going to act in a genuine way. Let's take an example. Let's say out of all the tenders, the quality of D is the best. Genuinely, matlab, let's assume. And let's also assume that the person is very, very honest. Okay, so because of his honesty and with a lot of genuinity, he gives the contract to the D. But in the eyes of public, it is always a consideration that A has favored the D because there was an interest. So it is being said that justice should not be done, but justice should be appears to be done in the eyes of public in order to maintain the credibility of the office. In all such situations, now this situation can happen in case of, say for example, bureaucracy में हैं आप और आपको किसी पोस्ट के लिए चूज करना है इंटरव्यू यू आर अ पर्सन ऑफ अ पैनल and think of your relative is also one of the appellant, okay, or the person is coming for the interview. So this is a case of conflict of interest. Have you understood? Because you may favor that particular XYZ candidate because he is belong to your near and dear one. Now think of that person is also meritorious and you are also honest. So out of your honesty and out of his merit, he has got selected. But how the public will see it? There's always a question mark on the credibility of the office and his selection process. So these situations are called as situations of conflict of interest. Now, the Nolan Committee defines the honesty that whenever such conflict of interest is there, you should declare the conflict of interest. And you should take, now read the definition, that holder of the public office should declare the conflict of interest and should take the steps to resolve the things which come in a way of protecting the public interest. Now, what are the steps? Generally, these are various types of case studies are there. A simple trick is you just have to identify, you can say that this is a case study of conflict of interest, and the first step is to recuse oneself. Okay, ideal way is to recuse. Recuse means getting away from this particular decision. I cannot be a member. So this board of director will see only for this particular decision, I cannot be a decision maker. So that's the best way of avoiding the conflict of interest. So first step is always requesting for recusing someone or getting away from that decision process. That's the first step. Second is like there is a declaration. Many a times it happens, once you declare, the company will or the government will say that now you can go ahead with the with decision making because you have already declared it. If you had a malified intention, you will never declare and you will do the process. So once you have declared the conflict of interest, then government will say that, okay, now you can go ahead with the things. So the honesty is defined in this way for the Nolan Committee, but certainly this question, obviously this question was asked. In fact, the question was, what do you understand by conflict of interest? Give examples. That is, what are the different examples of conflict of interest? So this is one of the trademark examples that you are a panel member and family member is there. That's a conflict of interest. So you have to recuse from the decision making. In fact, in all such situations, wherever there is a problem and you are becoming a decision maker, and somebody of you or your own is involved in some trouble, so that's become a conflict of interest. And the third question, tail end, was how will you resolve the conflict of interest? So the question was, what is a conflict of interest? What are the examples? Give some examples of conflict of interest. And how will you resolve the conflict of interest? So resolution of conflict of interest involves recusing and declaring the conflict of interest. So that's about the definition of honesty. In fact, in case of political neutrality, I have mentioned family members, when they are involved in the any kind of activity which is against the government, okay, in such activities he is required to declare conflict of interest. This is because in the eyes of the public, the credibility should be maintained. That's the reason. Okay, कौन सी definition रहेगी? Leadership. Okay, write the definition of leader. Holder of the public office. Holder of the public office should promote and support. Should promote and support above principles. Holder of the public office should promote and support above principles by leadership and examples. By demonstrating leadership and examples. Okay, there is nothing as such that has been written. The leadership is you follow all 6 principles and try and demonstrate it. That's a sort of a leadership. So leader is one who carries the all above principles along with him. And through his examples, he practice those principles. Okay, so that's about the Nolin committee. So this is the end of this particular discussion about the foundational values of civil service. Break चाहिए, ठीक है, break ले लो. So we'll take some more discussion on this after a break. एक नोटबुक दिखाना, ये पॉलिटिकल एंड मॉरल एटीट्यूड सिखाया है आपको? क्या किया? दिखाना कितना? It's right, the significance of code of ethics. Significance of code of ethics. Or these foundational values. Code of ethics, oblique code of conduct and code of conduct kar lo, because that's also significance of code of ethics and code of conduct. Code of ethics and code of conduct. This is a general points for any kind of a particular value. If you pick up why we follow those values. Okay, so even if the question is asked any particular value, then also you can write for where you have done in the starting. नहीं, वो impartiality का लिखा होगा ना? हाँ, but still और एक बार लिखो. ठीक है. यहाँ पे democracy नहीं है, authoritarianism. Yes, you read what has been written so that I'll get an idea. Somebody should read. So that is specifically to differentiate between code of conduct and code of. See, ultimately, everything is going to ensure some good behavior, ethical behavior, from point of view of civil servants. Now, the point which I am discussing in the larger point of significance is why we should be like so much worried about that civil servant should be ethical in nature. Okay, so that is, so वहाँ पे जो significance है in order to understand between code of conduct and code of ethics, but दोनों का भी purpose एक ही है, in order to ensure the good behavior. So right, COC and COE, COC and COE helps in maintaining the ethical behavior. Helps in maintaining the ethical behavior by civil servant or of civil servant. Ethical behavior of civil servant. It is important that civil servant should observe ethical principles while performing their task. A civil servant should observe ethical behavior while performing their task because they are the holder of public power. Because they are the holder of public power. Now, power is vested in them, so therefore there should not be misuse of the power. First, holder of the public power, comma, they uh, they also hold the public purse. They also hold the public purse. Okay, that is the tax. They also hold the public purse, and their decision and their decisions have wider ramification on the society. Their decision have wider ramification. Ramification is consequences. Okay, ramification और consequence लिखो अगर नहीं लिखना है तो ठीक है. Their decision has wider impact or wider consequence, long lasting impact on the society. So in fact here we are trying to articulate 3 points. There is authority and power. There is a chance that they may misuse the power. Okay, therefore they need to be ethical so that the power should be used for the yes, in the interest of public and not for their own interest. They are the holder of the public purse, so that taxpayers' money should not be used for the private purpose or for that matter unproductive purpose. And whatever the decision they take, it has a wider ramification. Like if they promote one particular corporate on the basis of their preference, so obviously the governance will get affected. And since the government think of this 2G spectrum and this different scams, so it's a lot of impact on the governance of the body. So therefore they are required to be ethical in their behavior. This is a general point which you can use for any value, whether it is a transparency, impartiality, any kind of value, you can use this general point. Now, write the question. Okay. Question in 2014 it has been asked. So just write a question. That's an assignment also. So, right. Civil servants need to be ethical. Civil servant need to be ethical. Civil servants need to be ethical as they hold the power. They hold the power, comma, public finances, and their decisions have wider impact on society. And their decisions have wider impacts on society. And this is the same what we have written, okay? The civil servant is required to be ethical because they hold the power, public finances, and their decision has wider impacts on the society. Full stop. Okay? What you have done in your life. Question है उसके आगे हाँ full stop. Full stop हो गया ये. What you have done in your life, or in other words, what efforts that you have taken in your life in order to increase the ethical competence, in order to increase the ethical competence of your own, increase the ethical confidence of your own, that will help you to become good civil servant. Okay, so this question is specifying that civil servants required to be ethical. So what you have done in your personal life, or what are the efforts? In other words, लिख लो कहीं पे. Efforts taken by your own in order to increase your ethical competence. So everyone should go and write this question. Okay, that's an assignment. Can you write some of hints? क्या क्या लिख सकते हो आप? Or we can discuss in the next class also. पहले आप बताओ क्या क्या लिख सकते हो इसके ऊपर. Think for 5 minutes. Write, try and write. But this is assignments also. ऐसे नहीं है कि 5 मिनट में खत्म assignment नहीं किया. ठीक है. थोड़ा हिंट नहीं दिया तो कुछ भी लिख के आते हो. मतलब जो भी कहानी है, ऐसे हुआ था, वैसे हुआ था, तो थोड़ा इसलिए मैंने बोला कि ट्रैक तो बता देता हूँ कौन से ट्रैक के ऊपर लिखना है. Yes, let's discuss. डिस्कस मतलब नीचे देखो. किसी की तरफ देख रहा हूं तो एकदम नीचे देख रहे, जैसे कि अभी सोचने लग गया. Yes, tell people sitting in the first row. हाँ. You haven't done anything in your life. Okay. Okay, ठीक है. हाँ, still fair enough. Hmm. 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 Very good. Yes. Hmm. Good. So, fine. Yes. That's it. One. Okay, ठीक है. हाँ. Hmm. 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 Okay. बाप रे. You have done also. अरे बाप रे. ठीक है. Good, good, good. तो और बताओ, एक ही तीन ही लाइन का. हाँ. This question is, हाँ, yes, और बताइए so that I can discuss. Yes. Anyone? Hmm. backbenchers. हाँ. यस, इसलिए मैंने पूछा था. हाँ, आपको समझा तो बताइए आप क्या क्या लिखा है आपने. हम्म. हम्म. What efforts you have done, that is what is the manifestation. So because of this value, what you have done in the past, so that you have reached to this point. You will not do, that is what you are, what you have done, how you have reached to this point. हाँ. यस, बताइए. हाँ, तो ऐसे जनरल पॉइंट्स बताओ आप. ओके, नो, नॉट जस्ट द स्पेसिफिक इवेंट ऑल्सो कैन बी सेड, बट आउट ऑफ दैट one value you have increased, that is helping the others, public orientation, empathy and compassion. So likewise, why this question was asked in this particular chapter I have given you, I would have given in otherwise also. In order to say that ethical competence required to perform a good civil servant. So what are the ethical values that are required to become a civil servant? This whole chapter: integrity, honesty, tolerance, dedication to public service, transparency, accountability, courage. So you have to think like, for the courage, I have done this, for this, I have done this, or in general also you can think about, I have read the books of great philosophers, biographies, I have some mentor, or so on and so forth. What all other things you can think? I have helped in order to inculcate those things in me, courage and this work for the society. I have joined some like NGO also, or for that matter, this NSS, you understand? National Service Scheme, Scouts and Guides I have done in the past, NCC. Okay, so this has inculcated the public service orientation value in me. I have read the books. I have been, so this is how you have to write, because the question will trap you otherwise. That's why I have been saying that what is taught in the class in the paper 4 is not much unless and until you brainstorm. Okay, you have to brainstorm. I hope you have got the points now. This is an assignment. I'll not explain further, but you can be specific to the values also. You can be generic also, that what all has helped. Think of a good points of socialization from where you have learned something good in your life, or you have done some concerted efforts by your own, so that good things have been inculcated in you. So if you are seeing that don't want to cheat, why you have thought that cheating is wrong? What has been the thing in the past? You may consider like, at one point of time I have done this, then I have felt wrong, and later I have realized that there are more harms of lying than saying truth. Okay, so therefore this is how I have inculcated the values. Okay, so this is because if you are making the answers in the examination hall, very loose words and very shouty ideas comes. Very concrete ideas are required in this case. Okay. टीम स्पिरिट का कुछ एग्जांपल बताओ. दिस इज हाउ आई हैव लर्न वर्किंग इन अ टीम. दिस इज हाउ कंसेंसस बिल्डिंग, एम्पैथी, courage. So you can bring that way also. Okay. Is it fine? Okay. Now, some, yes, you want to ask something? Yes, anybody has any doubt? Hmm? Yes, now the some small part like we have already done, but let me explain some more points. In the last class of attitude, okay, पहले और एक question ले लो, फिर then we can discuss on that. Bureaucratic attitude and the democratic attitude. Bureaucratic attitude and the democratic attitude are the two different aspects. Are the two different aspects of civil servant. What do you understand by these two terms? What do you understand by these two terms, write advantages and disadvantages of each one of them, write advantages and disadvantages of each. Is it possible? Is it possible to have both bureaucratic and democratic attitude? Is it possible or is it desirable भी लिख सकते हो वहाँ पे. Is it desirable? Okay. Yes, just think for 2 minutes again. Bureaucratic attitude and democratic attitude. Yes, बताइए, what do you understand by bureaucratic attitude? Okay, let's take a discussion. What is a bureaucratic attitude? Rules and regulations. Okay, so in fact, this is typically because bureaucracy works on the basis of rules and regulations. Okay, so strictly following the rules and regulations while taking the decisions. Strictly following rules and regulations while making decisions. So that's why bureaucracy is always known as rules-oriented bureaucracy, okay? Rule-oriented bureaucracy, and without any consideration for the subjectivity. So now they are asking the advantage. Is there any advantage also? Huh? Yes, what? You have to respect the rules. What is an advantage? Huh? You have to respect. So why we have to respect? What's the advantage? Yes, consistency, objectivity, predictability. Okay, objectivity. Okay, because if you follow your subjective consideration, then there will be a subjectivity. If you follow the rules, then any person will come. You are simply applying the objective criteria. Eh, Objectivity, impartiality. Isn't the impartiality will be maintained? Yes. In fact, rules are very, very important for the bureaucrats because otherwise there is a chance that there is a biasness from point of view of a civil servant. In each, if he is not following, obviously he will then bring caste, culture, religion, regional, different sorts of a biasness, family consideration. So there is a thing that objectivity, impartiality, consistency, respect for rule of law, constitutionalism. So these are all aspects come in. Okay, respect for the legal and the constitutional rules, etc. So that's a thing that he should abide by the rules. Also, like advantages, to put it in negative way, also you can say that this also misuse of power. This also curtails. This also curtails the misuse of power because ultimately rule of law is the highest value. So whenever there is a discretionary power, there is always a chance of misuse. Yes, क्या लिखा है? It curtails the misuse of power. It curtails the chance of misuse of power because rules becomes so important thing. Yes. Now, what is the disadvantage, if at all anything is there? Disadvantage. Yes, see, the thing is, in fact, when in this question, particularly bureaucratic attitude has been used as a prejudiced term. Okay, although it is not. If you see the Weberian style of bureaucracy, so it's a virtue that bureaucrats should follow the rules. In fact, Nolan committee की जो values है, वो पूरी की पूरी, you don't have any authority. You are just in person because the office and the rules and regulations are there. So, in a way, that becomes a virtue when you are following the rules and regulations. But then, in this question, it has been used in a prejudiced manner because we have been told that there is also a democratic attitude that is required. It means that there is something wrong with the when you become a too rigid. Okay, so disadvantage may it brings the rigidity. Okay, too rigid, and there is a no consideration, due consideration given to the democratic values. It brings rigidity in the decision making. It brings rigidity in the decision making, and there is no scope for democratic functioning. There is no scope for democratic functioning. Second is cultural and other specific preferences cannot be looked into. Context, circumstances, culture. Okay, these are the aspects which are not looked into. Now, yes, any other disadvantage that you can think? It becomes status quoist. Okay, the government becomes a status quoist. Status quoist means the rule is there. If you fit into the rule, it's there. Fine. Yes, it's a sense of apathy, lack of innovation and creativity, hmm. Hampering innovation. Fine, but do not write here in this sense because most of the times there will be an exhaustive rules and regulation even the timing of emergency. But yes, in emergency में जैसे innovation है कुछ out of the box भी सोचना है तो वो थोड़ा सा restrict हो जाता है certainly because there is a certain thing called as standard operating procedures. SOPs are there. So you cannot go beyond the SOPs. Now, many a times in a given situation, it's very difficult to follow the SOPs, and there has to be a certain scope for the creativity or to take a decision on the basis of subjective consideration. But then think of if there are no SOPs, what will happen? It's again a more harmful. Communal violence has broken out, and there are no standard operating procedure for the police. It will go haywire. Every police and superintendent of police will take as per his whims and fancies. In fact, it curtails the whims and fancies. The whole process of you must have studied in the polity, rule of law, constitutionalism. So, what is rule of law? It's a limited government. You are supposed to do what is your duty and what is written in the constitution, legal, and the rule. So to maintain the constitutionalism, rule of law, we requires a rule. Otherwise, it's a sort of anarchy. Okay, so therefore, rules and regulations are maintained, but then it is sounding like a bureaucratic attitude. यहाँ पे लिखा है. Most of the times we have been using the term bureaucratic apathy. Too much of focus only on the rules and regulation has led into the bureaucratic apathy, status quoism, elitism, lack of innovation, lack of creativity, etc., etc. Okay, so that's about the bureaucratic. In fact, the whole ethics paper is summarized in this because that's the whole context. That's why we have to bring in democratic. Now let's see about democratic attitude. What is a democratic? What do you think about democratic attitude? Yes, consensus based rather than rules and regulation. Okay, so democratic attitude is like this involves democratic consensus building, democratic consensus building through discussions and deliberations, through the discussions and deliberations, while making the decision, while making the decision. Okay, what are the advantages? Yes, it provides more legitimacy to the decision making. Okay, more legitimacy. This process takes into account different diverse opinion, diverse aspects of the society. Okay, it provides more legitimacy to the decision. Legitimacy means all people are agreed upon this. So while implementation, you will not face protests, etc., because you have already taken a decision, yes, in a more democratic fashion. Second, yes, it has flexibility, it has given a focus on different cultural, contextual understanding of the problem. Component of empathy and compassion and these things will be also be upholded, okay, through this democratic. So you have kept the flexibility in the decision making. Leadership, okay. So that's the advantage. What is the disadvantage? Yes, time consuming. It will be a slow process, and every time in each decision taking a thing will not work. Then lack of objectivity. Okay, in different times, different consideration will be happening, and impartiality will not be there. Depending upon how people are protesting, people are powerful, so they change the agenda, they change the decision making, so there will not be an objectivity in the decision making. But now, so this is what you have to understand: bureaucratic and democratic attitude. Democracy, as we see, rule of people through the discussion and deliberation. Okay, and this is through the rules. Now, what is the next question? उसमें क्या लिखा हुआ है? उसी में next question मतलब sub points of question. Yes, is it possible to have both bureaucratic and democratic attitude? Yes, it is possible, it is desirable, and it should be. Okay. So your answer should be yes, both are desirable, depending upon the circumstances and situations. In some cases, you need to be a rigid. Okay. In fact, you will realize, although we are discussing about democratic attitude, when you will become a civil servant, you will see that rules become more important because the system has been pictured in a way or structured in a way that the bureaucrat is supposed to follow the rules and regulations. There is really a very less scope for him to go beyond the rules and regulation. In fact, this is one of the agenda of civil service reform. Civil service reform agenda इसलिए है because all these structures which have been created, it has the colonial origin. And in colonial time, they have specifically made these rules very rigid so that they should support the colonial masters. So it is rather than the people's civil service, it is a ruling class civil service. Okay. So if you want to convert from the ruling class, political masters, to the public orientation, you need to give a lot of flexibility in their functioning, lot of autonomy in their functioning, so that people can use their wisdom and therefore they can take the decision. Okay, so you can say that it is a desirable and it should happen. And then you explain the whole context, which I have explained number of times, that in Western society they are developed, so therefore this is fine, strictly following the rules because people are already developed, they are educated, they know, they are aware, so therefore they come and ask for this thing. In this case, people are illiterate, underdeveloped, they are not aware of their rights. So you have to see this context also, and in that context, you need to be a little bit more flexible than what you are. It should not be a rigid one. Okay, and this will convert this bureaucratic apathy, or you can say that the status quoism tag, into the public orientation tag, or broader aspects what we have discussed: empathy, compassion, public orientation, yes, all these aspects. Have you understood? So in fact this was the question in 2015 again. Okay, questions देखते रहो पिछले साल के वगैरह. Now, how this topic is important in this, because whatever the values are being shaped, नोलेन कमिटीज की वैल्यू अगर आप देखोगे तो केवल ब्यूरोक्रेटिक वैल्यू आ जाएंगे, objectivity, impartiality, honesty and integrity, transparency and accountability. That is it. Okay, and that is rightly so, because for that society that is the requirement. But in case of democratic attitude, in fact there can be a question, how will you inculcate the democratic attitude? तो उसमें जो है value of tolerance, empathy, compassion, dedication for the public service, flexibility, adaptability, democratic consensus building, जितनी भी democracy से related and people's oriented values है आपको inculcate करनी पड़ेंगी. So that's the thing. Have you understood the whole aspect of the bureaucratic, democratic, and the related things with regard to the ethical competency? Okay. Now the last point, that is last point यहाँ का नहीं है, बोल रहे last chapter में moral and political attitudes हम discuss कर रहे थे. In the end, what I have mentioned, can anybody tell me what is moral attitude and what is political attitude? What you are supposed to discuss and write in that? What is an attitude? Attitude is specific to think, to feel, and to act in a specific way towards something. So towards something can be anything. So in case of moral attitude, it is what is your attitude with respect to morality? What is your aspect with respect to morality? तो पहले तो ये start हो जाता है कि ethics and morals are important things in life. There are so many people, they will think that ethics and morals are useless. Yes, there are, because today's in the global times, there is no time for this things like ethics and morals. Otherwise, we will left behind in the process of competitive environment. If you keep on helping these and that, that's also an attitude. Like one should concentrate on oneself, and he should not remain behind in this globalized world. So first attitude starts from that, whether the moral has something which we follow, or is there any necessity, utilitarian approach. तो कई सारे लोग हैं कि morals are not something which are required, they are subjective, therefore there is no consideration. ये एक है. There are some things, or some people will say that no, morals are very strong. The success of a person or the personality of a person should be judged on the basis of morality. If there are no morals, no matter however amount of money you earn, it's of no use. This is one attitude. Like one is giving more significance to morality, one is not giving, or even considering morality as a hurdle to the success. And some other person is defining success is nothing without the moral and ethical behavior. Second thing, now once you have put an importance to the morality, second attitude can be what should be the criteria for judgment of morality. Whether it should be a end-based, whether it should be a means-based, whether it should be a right-based, that's also an attitude. Okay, to what extent we should give an emphasis and what should be the criteria for the judgment of morality. Morality should be like a matter of convenience, or it should be consistent. कई बार ये होता है कि चलो morality is important, but not when difficult circumstances arise. That's a matter of integrity. For someone, it has become a absolute value that we should follow in all the circumstances. But for someone, it is a matter of a convenience. So this way you can think of different approaches you can apply, how people think about the morality in general as an issue. Have you understood this thing? Because attitude is about how you specifically think, act, feel towards a particular issue. Now coming to second part, that is a political attitude. So what you can think about this political attitude? How do you write? Thinking towards what is an attitude of society towards the political system. Now political system, when we say about system, there's like a biological system में कह रहे थे, system में components, their function, structure, functions and interconnectedness. System पता है नहीं पता है? Okay, system has some structural component, there is a functional, and then there is an interconnected. Okay, to put it simply, system will have different things. Like when we say about political system, it involves political parties, political candidates, pressure groups, then voting behavior or voters, Okay, these are the broadly media also, because they are also influencing the political things. So whole aspect of politics, whatever the issue, that becomes a political system. So what is an approach? To start with, you can consider some people think that politics is a yes, bad, or it has no significance, and most of the times we see that their perception is because there are bad politicians, so they have thought the politics itself is a bad thing. But for someone, it is very important because state is important. We should attach importance to the state. See, the people who are working in MNCs and etc. Generally, they don't care about what is happening in India, or for that matter, what is happening with the society. But somebody who is very sincere, his attitude is, I am a taxpayer's money, so I will ensure that whether my tax is being used in a productive manner or not. So that's a one attitude, rejection and having and good things. Then second thing is, okay, you have given an interest in politics. Then how do you see towards the political parties, political candidates and pressure groups? Their preference, whether religion and caste should be the preference on the basis of which political party should function, or there should be a secular, rational criteria for performance of political parties. So that you can think. Then from the voters' point of view, how voters vote. Okay, that's an also attitude. They vote on the basis of first communal and caste card. That's the one thing. Communal and caste preference is an attitude. Second, money and liquor, okay, they do not bother about caste and this thing. The one who is providing them Gandhi ke notes and 4 bottle, 10 bottle ओढ़का, okay, सुबह सुबह जाके लोटस पे कहाँ पे है, झाड़ू है, कहीं तो मार के आते हैं, ठीक है, क्योंकि रात भर पी रखी है, कुछ दिखाई नहीं दे रहा है, ठीक है। अब आजकल तो वो झाड़ू के लिए, झाड़ू का वो हो गया, इसलिए टॉर्च भी रहता है, ये भी रहता है, वो बहुत एक जगह जैसे सिंबल रहते हैं, तो ये कहीं पे टॉर्च पे मार के आते हैं, कहीं पे कुछ किसी पे मार के आते हैं। दिस थिंग हैपन, दैट्स ऑल्सो एन बिहेवियर, ओके, पॉलिटिकल बिहेवियर, दैट on the basis of monetary terms. You have seen the election from the utilitarian point of view, how it materialistically helps me. That's the second. First is casted communal. Second is this financial and the material importance. Yes, ideologies, political ideologies. So third can be based upon your political ideologies. Or fourth can be a rational voter who may think of common minimum agenda, developmental agenda, performance of political parties in last 5 years. This also can be in one. So these are the different shades of political ideologies. Apart from that, let me explain that this left and right also I'll explain. Just, or shall I explain it tomorrow? Because it will take some time, 15 minutes it will take. Huh? It will take 15 minutes. No, somebody has any other engagement, then only. You have class. What time? 5? Okay. Okay. Tomorrow just remind me, because actually I was supposed to take that only. And tomorrow we may start thinkers also, okay? Moral thinkers or maybe emotional intelligence. Let's see.